If you cure me, I'll marry you. Roland Langston's cruel laugh filled the big bedroom like thunder. His words were sharp like broken glass. The rich man sat in his wheelchair by the tall window, looking out at gardens he could no longer walk through. His face was twisted with anger and pain. Umla stood near the door, holding a tray of untouched breakfast. She didn't say anything. She never did when he was mean. Her dark eyes were calm like still water, even though her heart hurt from his words. "Did you hear me, girl?" Roland shouted, spinning his wheelchair around to face her. "You think your prayers will make my legs work? You think God cares about a broken man like me? Then prove it. Cure me, and I'll make you Mrs. Langston." He laughed again, but this time it sounded empty and sad. Umla put the tray down on the table. She was 28 years old, but sometimes she felt much older. Her hands were rough from years of cleaning and working. Her uniform was simple and old, but always clean. She walked closer to Roland, her steps soft on the expensive carpet. "Mr. Langston," she said quietly, "I will pray for you today, just like I pray every day." "Prayers," he spat the word out like poison. 6 years, Umla. 6 years I've been stuck in this chair. Do you know what that's like? I used to run. I used to climb mountains. I flew helicopters across the sky, like a bird. His voice cracked. Now I can't even feel my own legs. They're like dead wood attached to my body. Umla had heard this story many times before. Everyone who worked at the Langston estate knew what happened. 6 years ago, Roland was flying his helicopter over the ocean. He was showing off, flying too low, too fast. The machine hit a terrible storm. It crashed into the rocks near the shore. Roland lived, but his spine was badly hurt. The doctors said he would never walk again. Before the crash, Roland was proud and strong. He owned 5 companies. He had houses in 10 countries. People said his smile could light up a room. But after the crash, that smile died. The Roland who came home from the hospital was different, angry, bitter, and mean. 17 caregivers had worked for him in 6 years. All of them quit. Some lasted 3 months. Some lasted only 3 days. Roland yelled at them. He threw things. He said terrible words that made grown men cry. His own family stopped visiting. His brother came once a year, and that was all. But Umla stayed. She started working at this estate 4 years ago. At first, she only cleaned the rooms. She scrubbed the floors and washed the windows. She was quiet and worked hard. Then, one by one, all the caregivers left. The butler, Mr. Harrison, was desperate. He asked Umla if she would help take care of Mr. Langston. "He's very difficult," Mr. Harrison warned her. "He will say mean things. He will try to make you quit." Umla looked at the old butler with her calm eyes. "I will try," she said simply. That was 4 years ago. Now, she was the only person Roland allowed near him. Every morning, Umla brought him breakfast at 7 o'clock. She helped him wash and dress. She read him the newspaper, even though he usually threw it across the room. She changed his bed sheets and opened the curtains to let sunlight in, even though he always told her close them again. And every night, after Roland fell asleep, Umla went to her small room on the 3rd floor. She got on her knees beside her bed, folded her hands, and prayed. She prayed for his legs to work again. She prayed for his angry heart to find peace. She prayed even when it seemed impossible. The other servants didn't understand her. "Why do you stay?" the cook, Mrs. Chun, asked her once. "He treats you like dirt. You could work anywhere else and be treated better." Umla just smiled. "He's in pain," she said. "Not just his legs. His heart is in pain, too." Now, standing in Roland's room after his cruel joke about marriage, Umla felt something strange in the air. It was like the feeling before a big storm comes, when everything gets very quiet and still. "You should eat, Mr. Langston," she said, pointing at the breakfast tray. "You need your strength." "Strength for what?" he said bitterly. "For sitting? For staring out the window? For wasting away in this prison of a body?" Umla walked closer. She did something she had never done before. She reached out and gently placed her hand on Roland's shoulder. He froze. No one touched him anymore. Not like this. Not with kindness. You are not wasted, Allah said softly. You are still here. You are still breathing. That means God has a plan for you. Roland's jaw tightened. His eyes were suddenly wet, but he blinked fast to hide it. God forgot about me a long time ago, he whispered. No, Allah said firmly. He never forgets anyone. She moved her hand from his shoulder down to his arm, then to his hand. Her touch was warm and gentle. Roland felt something he hadn't felt in years. Not pity, but pure kindness. It confused him. It made him angry and sad at the same time. Why do you care? He asked, his voice breaking. Why do you stay when everyone else runs away? Allah looked into his eyes. Because someone has to believe you can be healed. Not just your legs, Mr. Langston. Your heart, too. Roland turned his face away from her. You're a fool, he muttered. Maybe, Allah said with a small smile. But I'm a fool who won't give up on you. She walked to the door, ready to leave him alone like she always did after bringing breakfast. But before she left, she turned back one more time. Your promise, she said quietly, about marrying me if I cure you? Roland looked at her, surprised. What about it? I don't want to marry you because of your money or your big house, Allah said, but I do want to see you walk again. I want to see you smile a real smile. I want to see the man you were before the crash. No, I want to see the man you could become after all this pain. Roland stared at her, speechless. So I will pray, Allah continued. I will pray like I always do. And maybe, just maybe, God will answer. Not because of me, but because he loves you more than you know. She left the room, closing the door softly behind her. Roland sat alone in his wheelchair, staring at the door. His chest felt tight. His hands were shaking. Something about Allah's words had cracked something inside him, something hard and frozen that had been there for 6 long years. He looked down at his useless legs. He tried to wiggle his toes like he did every morning, hoping for a miracle. Nothing, just the same dead feeling. If you cure me, I'll marry you, he whispered to the empty room, repeating his own mocking words. But this time, they didn't sound like a joke. They sounded like a desperate prayer. Outside his window, the morning sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light across the gardens. And in her small room on the 3rd floor, knelt beside her bed and began to pray. Neither of them knew that in 3 days, everything would change. Neither of them knew that a miracle was already beginning. 3 days passed like slow clouds across the sky. Roland didn't speak much during those days. He ate a little more breakfast. He didn't throw the newspaper. He watched Amla as she moved around his room, dusting and cleaning. He watched her like he was seeing her for the first time. On the 3rd morning, something felt different. Amla came in at 7 o'clock with a breakfast tray. The sun was shining bright through the windows. Birds were singing in the garden. It was a beautiful day, but Roland felt heavy inside. He had been thinking about Amla's words for 3 days straight. They played in his mind like a song he couldn't forget. Good morning, Mr. Langston, Amla said with her gentle voice. Morning, Roland replied. His voice was softer than usual. Amla set down the tray and opened the curtains wider. Light flooded the room. Roland squinted but didn't complain. He noticed Amla looked tired. There were dark circles under her eyes. Did you sleep? He asked suddenly. Amla turned to him, surprised. He never asked about her. Not much, she admitted. Why not? She hesitated. Then she said quietly, I was praying. Roland's throat felt tight. For me? Yes. All night. Most of it. She smiled a small, tired smile. I felt like God was asking me to pray more, like something important was about to happen. Roland looked away. He felt guilty. This woman was losing sleep, praying for a man who had been nothing but cruel to her. What kind of person does that? He wanted to say thank you, but the words got stuck in his throat. Come here, he said instead. Amla walked over to him. Do you need something? Roland looked up at her. His eyes were different today, less angry, more confused. Why? He asked. Why do you really stay? Tell me the truth. Amla knelt down beside his wheelchair. so their eyes were level. You want the truth? Yes. When I first saw you 4 years ago, I saw a man who had given up, a man who was drowning in sadness. And I know what that feels like. Her voice got quieter. I lost my mother when I was young. My father drank and hurt us. I had 2 little brothers to raise. I was angry at God for a long time. I felt alone and broken. Roland listened without interrupting. Then one day, an old woman at church put her hand on my shoulder, just like I did to you 3 days ago. She said, "Child, you are not broken. You are being built into something stronger." That touch changed everything for me. It was like light came into a dark room. Umlah's eyes were wet with tears now. I stayed because I wanted to be that person for you. The one who doesn't give up. The one who believes. Roland felt his chest tighten. No one had ever said anything like this to him. He reached out and took Umlah's hand. Her hand was small and rough in his larger, softer one. "I don't deserve your kindness," he whispered. "None of us deserve grace, Mr. Langston," Umlah said. "But God gives it anyway." They sat there for a moment, hand in hand. The room was very quiet except for the birds outside. Then something happened. Umlah felt it first. A tiny movement, a flutter, like a butterfly touching a flower. She looked down at Roland's legs. His right foot had moved. Just barely. Just a big toe. But it had moved. "Mr. Langston," she breathed. Her voice was shaking. Did you feel that?" "Feel what?" Roland asked. "Your toe. Your right toe. It moved." Roland's face went white. "That's impossible. I don't feel anything. I never feel anything." "Look," Umlah said, still holding his hand. "Try to move it. Try right now." Roland stared down at his feet. His heart was beating so fast he thought it might explode. He focused all his attention on his right foot. He imagined his toe moving, curling, lifting. He had done this exercise 1,000 times before. It never worked. It never. His big toe twitched. They both saw it. Roland gasped. The sound was somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "I felt it," he said, his voice cracking. "Umlah, I felt it. It was tiny like a pin prick, but I felt it." Umlah's hands flew to her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. "Oh, God," she whispered. "Oh, thank you, God." "Do it again," Roland said urgently. "Touch my hand again." Umlah grabbed his hand with both of hers. She held it tight. Roland focused again. This time, 2 toes moved. Then his whole foot trembled slightly. "It's happening," Roland said, and now he was crying too. "It's really happening. How is this possible?" Umlah shook her head. She was laughing and crying at the same time. "I don't know. I don't know." Roland tried his left foot. Nothing. Just the right one had feeling. But it was more feeling than he'd had in 6 years. It was a miracle. For the next hour, they didn't tell anyone. They stayed in that room, and Roland practiced moving his toes over and over. Each time was a little stronger. Sometimes Umlah held his hand. Sometimes she just stood near him. But whenever she stepped too far away, the feeling got weaker. "Don't leave," Roland said when she moved toward the door. "Please. I think you have to be close." Umlah came back immediately. "I won't leave," she promised. That night, Mr. Harrison, the butler, knocked on the door with dinner. He found Roland sitting straighter in his wheelchair than he had in years. The man was actually smiling. "Sir," Mr. Harrison said, confused. "Are you feeling well?" "Better than well, Harrison," Roland said. "But don't ask questions yet. Just trust me. Something amazing is happening. Over the next 5 days, the miracle grew. By day 2, Roland could feel his whole right leg. Pins and needles ran up and down it constantly. It hurt, but it was the most beautiful pain he'd ever felt because it meant his leg was alive. By day 3, his left leg started tingling too. By day 4, Roland could bend his knees slightly when Umlah was in the room holding his hand. By day 5, he told Mr. Harrison to bring the physical therapist who had worked with him years ago. The therapist, a strong man named Marcus, came back to the estate. He hadn't seen Roland in 3 years. I heard you wanted to try therapy again, Marcus said carefully. Last time he tried, Roland had thrown a book at him. I can feel my legs, Roland said simply. Marcus didn't believe him, not until Roland wiggled all 10 toes right in front of him. The therapist's mouth fell open. That's, Mr. Langston, that's medically impossible. Your spine was. I know what my spine was, Roland interrupted. I also know what I can do now. Help me stand. Marcus looked at Umla, who nodded encouragingly. Together, Marcus and Umla helped Roland shift his weight forward. His legs were weak, so weak they shook like leaves in the wind. But they held some weight. Not much, but some. Easy, Marcus said. Don't push too hard, or... I want to stand, Roland said through gritted teeth. Sweat poured down his face. His whole body trembled with effort. Umla held one arm. Marcus held the other. And then, for just 3 seconds, Roland Langston stood on his own feet. His legs gave out immediately, and they lowered him back into the wheelchair. But those 3 seconds changed everything. Roland looked up at Umla with wonder in his eyes that hadn't shone with hope in 6 long years. You did it, he whispered. You really did it. Umla was crying again. No, Mr. Langston. God did it. I was just here to believe. Marcus, the therapist, was pacing back and forth, running his hands through his hair. I need to call the doctors. They need to see this. This is beyond anything I've ever seen. No, Roland said firmly. Not yet. I want to really walk first. I want to walk to Umla and thank her properly. For the next week, Roland worked harder than he'd ever worked in his life. Every day, Marcus came and helped him do exercises. Every day, the feeling in his legs grew stronger. And every day, Umla was there, her hand in his, her prayers lifting him up. The other servants started to notice something was different. They saw Mr. Langston smiling. They heard him laugh, really laugh, for the first time in years. Mrs. Chin, the cook, made his favorite foods, and he actually ate them. What's happening up there? Mrs. Chin asked Umla one evening. Mr. Langston seems almost happy. Umla just smiled. Something wonderful, she said. Something impossible. On the 14th day after the first toe twitch, Roland walked. Not with help. Not holding on to anyone. He walked 6 full steps across his bedroom, while Umla stood near the window, crying and clapping her hands. Marcus stood ready to catch him if he fell. But he didn't fall. Roland walked right up to Umla. He stood in front of her, standing tall for the first time in 6 years. He took her hands in his. I made you a promise, Roland said. His voice was steady and serious. I said if you cured me, I would marry you. Umla's eyes went wide. But I need you to know something, Roland continued. I don't want to marry you because of your healing touch. I don't want to marry you because you made my legs work. He squeezed her hands gently. I want to marry you because you saw me when I was at my worst, and you love me anyway. You are the strongest, kindest, most amazing person I've ever known. Umla's heart was beating so fast. Mr. Langston, Roland, he interrupted. Please call me Roland. Roland, she said softly. I'm just a maid. I have nothing to give you. You gave me everything, Roland said. You gave me hope when I had none. You gave me faith when I'd lost it all. You gave me a reason to wake up every morning. His eyes were wet with tears. Umla, you healed more than my legs. You healed my broken heart. The sun was setting outside, painting the room in gold and orange light. Marcus quietly stepped out of the room to give him privacy. I'm scared, Umla admitted. This is all so fast. So big. I know, Roland said. But sometimes the biggest miracles come when we're scared. You taught me that. Umla looked into his eyes that were finally full of life again, and she realized something. She had been healed too. All her life, she'd felt small and invisible, but God had used her small hands to do something impossible. He had seen her. He had chosen her. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. Roland pulled her into a hug, and for the first time in 6 years, he was standing while he held someone he loved. Outside the door, Mr. Harrison, and Mrs. Chun were listening. When they heard Umla say yes, they burst into the room cheering. Soon, all the servants came running. They found Roland standing on his own 2 feet, holding Umla close. The impossible had happened, and it was just the beginning. The news spread through the Langston estate like wildfire. By morning, every servant knew that Mr. Langston could walk. They whispered in the kitchen. They talked in the gardens. Some cried with joy. Others couldn't believe it was real. "I need to see it with my own eyes," said Thomas, the young gardener who had only worked there for 6 months. He had never seen Mr. Langston out of his wheelchair. "You will," Mrs. Jin said, wiping happy tears from her cheeks. "Oh, you will. And wait until you hear about Miss Umla." The servants loved Umla. She was always kind to everyone. She helped the new workers when they were nervous. She shared her lunch when someone forgot theirs. She never complained, even when her work was hard. Now, hearing she was going to marry Mr. Langston, well, it felt like a fairy tale come true. But not everyone was happy. Roland's brother, Victor Langston, arrived at the estate that afternoon. He came in his expensive black car, wearing his expensive suit, with his expensive watch shining in the sun. Victor was 2 years younger than Roland, and he had always been jealous of his older brother's success. When the crash happened 6 years ago, Victor secretly hoped he might inherit everything. He visited once a year just to check if Roland was still alive. He never stayed long. He didn't like seeing his brother so broken. Now, Victor walked into the estate, and Mr. Harrison met him at the door. "Welcome, Mr. Victor," the butler said with a slight bow. "You'll be pleased to know that your brother has made a remarkable—" "Where is he?" Victor interrupted. He didn't like the butler's happy tone. Something was different. "In the garden, sir, walking." Victor froze. "What did you say?" "Walking, sir. He's been walking for 3 days now. It's truly a miracle." Victor's face turned red. He pushed past Mr. Harrison and rushed toward the garden. When he got there, he stopped dead in his tracks. There was Roland, standing by the rose bushes, smelling the flowers. He was holding hands with a woman Victor had never seen before, a simple woman in a maid's uniform. They were laughing together, like old friends. "Roland," Victor called out, his voice sharp. Roland turned around. When he saw his brother, his smile faded a little, but he didn't let go of Umla's hand. "Victor, I wasn't expecting you for another 6 months. What's going on?" Victor demanded, walking closer. "Harrison said you're walking. How is that possible?" The doctor said. "The doctors were wrong," Roland said simply. "Or maybe God proved them wrong. Either way, I'm healed." Victor looked at Umla with suspicious eyes. "And who is this?" "This is Umla," Roland said, squeezing her hand gently. "My fiancée." Victor's mouth dropped open. "You're what?" "We're getting married," Roland said calmly. "Next month, in fact." Victor's face turned from red to purple. "Have you lost your mind? You can't marry a... He looked Umla up and down. "A servant." Umla felt her face get hot. She tried to pull her hand away from Roland's, but he held on tight. "Watch your tone, Victor," Roland said, and his voice was cold as ice. "This woman saved my life. She gave me hope when I had none. She prayed for me when no one else cared. She's worth more than 1,000 people like you. She's after your money." Victor shouted. "Can't you see that? She probably poisoned you or something to make you weak, and now she's pretending to heal you so you'll marry her." "That's enough." Roland's voice boomed across the garden. Several servants stopped working to watch. "You haven't visited me in a year, Victor. You gave up on me. You probably hoped I would die, so you could have everything. But Umla, she stayed. She believed. And I will marry her whether you like it or not." Victor's hands clenched into fists. "If you marry her, you're a fool. Everyone will laugh at you. The great Roland Langston married to a maid. You'll be the joke of the century." "Then let them laugh," Roland said. "I'd rather be a fool with Umla than a rich man alone." Victor stared at his brother for a long moment. Then he turned and stormed away. They heard his car roar to life and speed down the driveway. He didn't even say goodbye. Umlaw was shaking. Roland, maybe he's right. Maybe I should. No, Roland said firmly. He turned to face her, holding both her hands now. Don't let him poison your mind. You belong here. With me. But I'm nobody, Umlaw whispered. You could marry someone rich and beautiful, and... You are beautiful, Roland interrupted. And you're not nobody. You're the woman who taught me how to live again. You're the woman who showed me what real love looks like. He lifted her chin so she had to look at him. Do you love me, Umlaw? She nodded, tears streaming down her face. I do. I really do. Then that's all that matters. Over the next 3 weeks, Roland planned the most beautiful wedding the town had ever seen. He invited everyone, servants, business partners, neighbors, even people from the church Umlaw attended. The only person not invited was Victor. Umlaw was overwhelmed by it all. Roland bought her beautiful dresses to choose from. He hired people to do her hair and makeup. He wanted everything perfect for her. It's too much, Umlaw kept saying. I don't need all this. I know you don't, Roland said with a smile. But I want to give it to you anyway. You gave me everything. Let me give you something back. The night before the wedding, Umlaw couldn't sleep. She sat by her window, looking at the stars. She thought about her life, how hard it had been, how many times she cried herself to sleep, how many times she felt invisible and unimportant. But God had seen her. He had taken a poor maid with rough hands and used her to perform a miracle. He had given her a love she never dreamed she could have. Thank you, she whispered to the stars. Thank you for not forgetting me. The wedding day was bright and beautiful. The ceremony was held in the garden where Roland had proposed. White flowers were everywhere. A string quartet played soft music. Over 200 people came to watch. When Umlaw walked down the aisle in her white dress, everyone gasped. She looked like a queen. Her face was glowing with joy. And at the end of the aisle stood Roland, strong, healthy, and walking on his own 2 feet. When she reached him, he took her hands and whispered, You're the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. The pastor began the ceremony. We are gathered here today to witness a miracle, not just a miracle of healing, but the miracle of love. Roland and Umlaw have shown us that God works in mysterious ways. He takes broken people and makes them whole. He takes impossible situations and makes them possible. Roland spoke his vows first. His voice was strong and clear. Umlaw, 6 years ago I lost the ability to walk. But I lost something more important. I lost hope. I lost joy. I lost myself. You gave all of that back to me. You didn't heal me with medicine or surgery. You healed me with faith, with patience, with love. I promise to spend the rest of my life making you as happy as you've made me. Now it was Umlaw's turn. She was crying, but she smiled through her tears. Roland, when I came to work here, I was broken too. I felt small and worthless. But you taught me that God can use anyone, even a simple maid, to do great things. You taught me that I matter. You taught me that love is stronger than any pain. I promise to stand by you, to pray for you, to love you for all my days. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the pastor said with a huge smile. You may kiss your bride. Roland pulled Umlaw close and kissed her while everyone cheered and clapped. Mrs. Chin was crying. Mr. Harrison was wiping his eyes with his handkerchief. Even Marcus, the therapist, was there, shaking his head in wonder at the miracle he'd witnessed. After the ceremony, there was a huge party. There was music and dancing and so much food. Roland danced with his new wife, spinning her around and around. People couldn't believe this was the same bitter, angry man who had been trapped in a wheelchair just weeks ago. You look so different, one of Roland's old business partners said. Not just because you're walking. You look happy. I am happy, Roland said, looking at Umlaw. For the first time in 6 years, I'm truly happy. Late that night, when all the guests had gone home, Roland and Umlaw sat together on a balcony overlooking the garden. The moon was full and bright. Stars filled the sky like diamonds. Do you know what the best part of all this is? Roland asked. What? When I mocked you that day, when I said, if you cure me, I'll marry you, I thought I was being cruel. I thought I was making a joke that could never come true. He turned to look at her. But God took my mockery and turned it into a promise. He took my cruelty and turned it into love. Umla rested her head on his shoulder. He takes broken things and makes them beautiful. He used your hands to heal me, Roland said. But Umla, you healed more than just my legs. You healed my soul. And you healed mine, she whispered back. They sat there in comfortable silence. Two people who had been broken and lost, now found and made whole. The impossible had happened. A paralyzed millionaire could walk. A poor maid had become a wife. And love, real, true, miracle-working love, had conquered everything. Down in the servants' quarters, Mrs. Chung was telling the story to new workers who would start next week. Remember this, she said. Never underestimate the power of kindness. Never underestimate the power of prayer. And never, ever underestimate what God can do through one person who refuses to give up. Share this story, Mr. Harrison added. Tell everyone you know. Let them know that miracles still happen. Let them know that love still wins. And that's exactly what happened. The story of Roland and Umla spread far and wide. It was in newspapers. People talked about it in churches. Some didn't believe it. But those who knew Umla, who had seen her pray and work and love without expecting anything in return, they believed. Years later, Roland and Umla had 3 children. They taught their children the same lesson they had learned, that faith can move mountains, that love can heal the deepest wounds, and that God never wastes our pain. The Langston estate became a different place. It was no longer cold and sad. It was filled with laughter and light. Roland started a foundation to help people who were paralyzed, giving them hope and resources. And Umla, she never forgot where she came from. She still prayed every night, thanking God for taking a mockery and turning it into a miracle. Because in the end, that's what happened. A bitter man's cruel joke became a beautiful promise. An impossible situation became possible. And 2 broken hearts became whole. All because one woman believed when everyone else had given up. All because love is stronger than we think. All because God still performs miracles. If this story touched your heart, share it with someone who needs hope today. Subscribe to read more stories about faith, love, and miracles that change lives. Because every impossible situation is just a miracle waiting to happen.